Well, good morning. Happy Wednesday to you. It is Wednesday, the 30th of October. And thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're having a great day. It was a little bit colder out this morning, about 44, 46 degrees out this morning. That's why I'm still wearing a sweatshirt, because it's cold in the house and we haven't turned the heat on. And I would have turned it on a week ago, but, it's got heat outside in the afternoon, so you can't do it in the morning. But I imagine it won't be too much longer before heat will come on, because I'm cold all the time. I live in the cold. I really do. Let's see. We have a birthday today, Jim Walls. Happy birthday, Jim. I hope you have a great and beautiful birthday. And let's see, what else? I think that's the birthdays. Yeah, and it is trash day for me, so I got to get that trash out. Let's go ahead and let's get into our Bible study. We are in 2 Kings. We're ending chapter 23 and we're beginning chapter 24. And Josiah the king dies. He has a son named Jehoahaz who reigns only for, let's see, he reigned in Israel for 3 months, in Jerusalem for 3 months. So he wasn't there very long. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord. Although 3 months, it's not a lot of time to do evil in the eyes of the Lord, if you ask me. But basically, the Egyptian Pharaoh next door puts him in chains because he doesn't want him to rule. He's 23 years old. So he has a half-brother from a different mother, a brother from a different mother, and his name is Jehoiakim. And so Jehoiakim rules after his half-brother, and he was 25 years old, and he reigned for 11 years. So he was there for a longer time. He also did evil in the sight of the Lord. So you have basically Jehoahaz and Jehoiakim, and we're going to continue the story of Jehoiakim. And so let's continue reading in chapter 24, verse 1. During Jehoiakim's reign, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, invaded the land, and Jehoiakim became his vassal for 3 years. All right, so I'm going to just stop it right there, because this is the first time in Scripture that we see Nebuchadnezzar. This is Nebuchadnezzar the second. Nebuchadnezzar the first apparently lived hundreds of years before Nebuchadnezzar the second. But this Nebuchadnezzar is the one that we all know about. He was he was king of Babylon. He's kind of like Genghis Khan. In other words, he is, once he gets started in his kingdom, his quest for thirst and power is unquenchable. And he starts to conquer quite a bit of Israel. He even wants to go as far as Egypt. He goes, all the way. He's already in Iran, so he is a big player in the area. And we all know Nebuchadnezzar because of Daniel, because Daniel was exiled from Jerusalem over to Babylon, and becomes one of the people in Nebuchadnezzar's court. And Nebuchadnezzar gets upset with Daniel because he doesn't worship him or the gods that the Babylonians worship. So he puts him in the furnace with his 3 brothers, with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which doesn't go well for Nebuchadnezzar, because he basically realizes that the God of Israel protected Daniel and his 3 friends, or protected Daniel's 3 friends. So that's the Nebuchadnezzar that we're talking about. And so during Jehoiakim's reign, and I was reading up on Nebuchadnezzar. I don't really know. I know what the biblical story about Nebuchadnezzar is, but I don't really know a whole lot about Nebuchadnezzar other than that. He's the guy that built the Hanging Gardens, which was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the ancient world. The 7 wonders of the ancient world. And apparently it was this large terraced with steps, plants. It was just this beautiful tropical land that had plants and steps and stones, and it was just absolutely. There's an artist depiction of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, just to kind of give you an idea of what it is. Let's see if I can pull up that picture. Well, I thought I had a better picture than that. Oh, here's one. Yeah. So this is the Hanging Gardens. It has pools, it has terraces, it has pillars, it has, it truly does look like it is absolutely amazing. Now today, a modern day comfortable resort probably is equivalent to it. But back then, the amount of effort it would take to build something like this, and it's not even that, but to get the plants there, and then to water those plants so that they stay alive. I mean, that's probably the modern miracle. If you go to Star Pass, which is kind of built up into the hills, it's beautiful, and has, opening up to the outside and lots of plants and a golf course and all that sort of thing. But my guess is that this far surpasses Star Pass and probably is a modern marvel because it just would have taken an incredible amount of labor to build it. So that's Nebuchadnezzar. That's the Nebuchadnezzar. And he shows up here during the reign of Jehoiakim. And he is Jehoiakim becomes a vassal of Nebuchadnezzar. So basically they pay tribute to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar receives this tribute, and for that, I think provides protection for Jerusalem. But then something happens if we continue reading in verse 1. But then he turned against Nebuchadnezzar and rebelled. He is Jehoiakim. The Lord sent Babylonian, Aramean, Moabite, and Ammonite raiders against him to destroy Judah in accordance with the word of the Lord proclaimed by his servants, the prophets. So it's not just Nebuchadnezzar, but it's also the Arameans, the Moabites, the Ammonites, the raiders, all of these people to go against Jehoiakim. He's not having a good day. As a matter of fact, he's having a rather horrible day during Jehoiakim's reign. Let's see. The Lord sent the Babylonian, Aramean to destroy Judah. So Judah is not going well under the reign of Jehoiakim. Let's keep reading, verse 3. Surely these things happened to Judah according to the Lord's command in order to remove them from his presence because of the sins of Manasseh and all he had done, including the shedding of innocent blood, for he had filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord was not willing to forgive. As for the other events of Jehoiakim's reign and all he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? Jehoiakim rested with his ancestors, and Jehoiakim, his son, succeeded him as king. The king of Egypt did not march out from his own country again because the king of Babylon had taken all his territory from the Wadi of Egypt to the Euphrates River. So Jehoiakim offers innocent blood. He sheds innocent blood. Somewhere he kills somebody innocently. And so that's obviously against the book. Now, if you're king, you have the ultimate rule to shed innocent blood or shed blood to keep, your kingdom protected. But I think there are times when even kings should not shed innocent blood. For example, King David, Uzziah the Hittite, he didn't necessarily kill him, but he had him killed. And that was wrong. So even kings have God over them saying, don't shed innocent blood. And then the king of Babylon took all the territory from Babylon all the way over to the Wadi of Egypt, to the Euphrates, from the Wadi of Egypt to the Euphrates River. So all the way from Egypt, all the way up to the Euphrates, that whole entire area was Babylon. And nobody's quite sure where the Wadi of Egypt is. it's either over in Egypt, like the Nile River could be. A wadi is a wash. We know what wadis are. The actual definition of a wadi is any stream that doesn't flow all the time. So if you've got a stream that flows all the time, that's called a river. But if you have a stream that only flows when it's raining, that's called a wadi. And we know about that here in Tucson because we have tons of wadis here. We just call them washes. But during a good rain, those washes fill up with just as much water as anything else. And where I live here in Vail, we have a creek that has flown for, I think, a couple weeks nonstop after a rain. So it can flow pretty good. So that's what the wadi is. So it could be the Nile River, although the Nile River is not really a wadi, but maybe kind of some historians say it's the Nile River. Others say it's basically there's this wash that separates the Arabian Peninsula with the Middle East, what they call here the Levant, that area, and that's where Babylon came and conquered. But for whatever reason, it's definitely all of Israel. All of Israel, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, all those areas conquered by Nebuchadnezzar, who interacted with Daniel. So we've heard him before. We like Nebuchadnezzar. We like the VeggieTales version of Nebuchadnezzar. At least I like the VeggieTales version of Nebuchadnezzar. I mean, obviously, he is a good ruler. So he built the Hanging Gardens for his wife. Apparently, she didn't live in the desert, and she missed all the green trees. So he built the Hanging Gardens for his wife. I mean, that's kind of a nice thing to do, isn't it? And he ruled the area with, did a lot of other projects that were exemplary. But you can't continue to rule more and more lands unless you give up concessions, and because otherwise you get a rebellion. I mean, most of these kings do have. I know in the Bible we show them as horrible people. Genghis Khan is not in the Bible, but all these different rulers are horrible people. But if you think about expanding their territory, at some level they have to be pragmatic to try to be as good to their subjects as they possibly can. All right, verse 8. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. His mother's name was Nehushta, daughter of Elnathan. She was from Jerusalem. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father had done. At that time, the officers of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, advanced on Jerusalem and laid siege to it. And Nebuchadnezzar himself came up to the city while his officers were besieging it. And Jehoiakim, king of Judah, his mother, his attendants, his nobles, and his officials all surrendered to him. Wow, Nebuchadnezzar actually comes into Jerusalem and lays siege to it and comes, let's see, at that time, officers, now himself came to the city. Nebuchadnezzar himself came to the city. Maybe he had seen the temple. Maybe he had heard about the Israelites. Maybe he just was on a tour of the kingdom and decided to come into some kings will go on big tours of their kingdom just to see what all the kingdom is all about. If I were a good king, I would definitely want to go to see what all the little lands of the kingdoms look like so that you can become a better king, so you can be more familiar with the people. And so apparently Nebuchadnezzar does that. He comes into Jerusalem. And he laid siege to it, and he himself came to the city, and Jehoiakim, king of Judah, his mother, and were surrendered to him. So now Israel, or Jerusalem, Judah, has surrendered to King Nebuchadnezzar. In the 8th year of the reign of the king of Babylon, he took Jehoiakim prisoner. As the Lord had declared, Nebuchadnezzar removed the treasures from the temple of the Lord And from the royal palace, he cut up the gold articles that Solomon, king of Israel, had made for the temple of the Lord. He carried all Jerusalem into exile, all of the officers and fighting men, and all the skilled workers and artisans, a total of 10,000. Only the poorest people of the land were left. Nebuchadnezzar took Jehoiakim captive to Babylon. He also took from Jerusalem to Babylon the king's mother, his wives, his officials, and the prominent people of the land. The king of Babylon also deported to Babylon the entire force of 7,000 fighting men, strong and fit for war, and 1,000 skilled workers and artisans. He made Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king in his place and changed his name to Zedekiah. So, man, this is a lot, isn't it? Just think of what he's done here. He comes in, he raids the temple, takes all the stuff that Solomon had in the temple, he takes that back to Babylon, and then he takes all the able-bodied people, not the poor people, but the able-bodied people. And what would that mean? I mean, it's probably people who bring skills like maybe artisan skills or information, or they're, they can do accounting work, or maybe like Daniel, they're just good officers to work for the king of Babylon. Now, what he did here is fascinating, because if you're going to conquer a country, and one of the things that a country has is the wealth of talent. So if you are in a business, and this happens in engineering businesses all the time, but you have an engineering business, and in that engineering business, you have people who are engineers, and they have gone to engineering college, they've learned a skill or a trade, and so then when you pool them together into a company, the value of the company really is the collective value and the intelligence and the skill set and the history. What do you call that? They have the ability to do engineering work. They have, it's them and their experience to do engineering work, basically. And the value of any organization is basically the talent of people who are talented people who can actually get things like engineering done. Or pharmaceutical work or medical work or whatever, these people who have specialized training to do certain things. So when King Nebuchadnezzar comes in to Jerusalem, he raids all the people at the top and takes them to Babylon so that they can serve him and his kingdom in Babylon. Well, what does that do to Jerusalem? It's a brain drain. The only people he said that were left were people who were nobodies. They had no skills, perhaps. They had no money. They were just basically day laborers. And maybe they could farm, but other than that, they just, he did what's called a brain drain. And when you do a brain drain, it destroys a country, because there's nobody left to kind of rule. And it says here that he put someone in place to rule, Zedekiah. But it's hard to rule a country filled with people that just have no marketable skills. And this will definitely be the downfall of Jerusalem and Judah, because all the talent's left. And you need talent to run a country or an area or a city. It's just something you need. This is actually one of the main problems with immigration. Is if you read about immigration, one of the side impacts of immigration is most of the people who immigrate are people who want freedom, or they're fighting persecution, and so immigration for them takes them to a country where there's the rule of law, where they have the opportunity to get ahead in life and all of the different things. Well, when they do that, the countries that are leaving get worse and worse and worse off because there's a brain drain at the top. And we've seen this happen over and over and over again throughout the migrations of all the people in history. And so one of the one of the best things you can do for any country that's having a brain drain is to somehow figure out how you can keep those smart people in their own country so that they can, help their own country. And I remember one time there was, I had a conversation with a man who was going to school with one of my daughters. And I said, what are you going to do when you graduate? And he says, well, I'm going to work in the United States for a while, but then I want to go back to my home country and be, I think he said president of the country, which I thought that's pretty ambitious. But, at least go back home, get an education in the United States and then go back home so that he could bring that talent and that education back to his hometown, because there's not a lot of people that are educated in his hometown. And that really is, I think that, so when moms and dads allowed their kids to leave their country to go, let's say, to the United States, to go to some university and learn something, I think the intent is that when they graduate, that they would go back to their home country. But apparently there is such a disparity in the living conditions between the home country and the Western world that a lot of these people, they come here or to Canada or Europe or whatever, and they see what a well-run country looks like, and they don't want to leave. They don't want to go back. And that's another brain drain. And I don't know how you fix that problem. Because you don't want to necessarily, I mean, obviously for the United States, you want to keep them here because they've got skills, talent. But on the flip side, you'd love for them to go back to their own country and help that country, move from a third world country to a second world or a first world country. All right. So Jehoiakim's uncle, Mattaniah, is king in Jerusalem, and his name is now Zedekiah. So he's the new king of Judah, Zedekiah. Well, let's read about him a little bit. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah. She was from Libnah. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, just as Jehoiakim had done. It was because of the Lord's anger that all this happened to Jerusalem and Judah, and in the end, he thrust them from his presence. So God gets rid of him because he did evil. He was 21 when he became king, and he reigned for 11 years. All right. Did evil, just as everybody else does. And all the kings, the remaining kings are all evil kings. Let's do one more. The fall of Jerusalem. Now Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. I guess we got to go to the next chapter to get the fall of Jerusalem. So in the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, marched against Jerusalem with his whole army. He encamped outside the city and built siege works all around it. The city was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. But by the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine in the city had become so severe that there was no food for the people to eat. Then the city wall was broken through, and the whole army fled at night through the gate between the two walls near the king's garden through the Babylonians were surrounding the city. They fled toward the Arabah. But the Babylonian army pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his soldiers were separated from him and scattered, and he was captured. And then he was taken to Babylon at Riblah, where sentence was pronounced on him. They killed the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes. Then they put out his eyes, bound him with bronze shackles, and took him to Babylon. So this is the dark side of Nebuchadnezzar. He kills the sons in front of the king. It's like, your sons are all going to die. And then he gouges out his eyes. That's just a hideous thing that Nebuchadnezzar does. Lays siege to the city. So this is how it goes when Babylon comes into Jerusalem. They come with full force. They camp outside the city walls. The people start to starve. Then they break through the walls to get out of the walls so they get some food. And as they're leaving, they flee everywhere. This is the diaspora, right, that happens. But Nebuchadnezzar is able to come into the city, and he finds the king, kills the sons, gouges out his eyes. And then this begins the siege of the end of Jerusalem. So I guess we'll leave it there and talk about the final chapter. Probably we'll finish this tomorrow. What is today? Today is Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, yeah. So this week we'll finish probably 2 Kings. So we'll start something else. All right, let's close in prayer. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you that when the sieges come, that you hold fast to us. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, let's go over to, let's see here. 46 degrees to you. Wow, yeah, it is cold this morning. And I don't think it's going to get much warmer until probably March or April. Maybe a little bit warmer, but I think it's upon us because tomorrow is the 31st, so that's All Hallows Eve, and then on the 1st we have All Saints Day, and there's an All Saints Assembly or something All Saints at the school on Friday. So we're looking forward to that. All right. So thank you for joining me. Let me find my cursor. There it is. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. God's blessings. Bye.